be here. Let's see that. Or do you like feel like are you going to almost 72% is so the job in Weaverville. Is it?
Very nice letter for the Colons.
99, that's just 2 hours one way. If he's trying to keep it down.
Okay, are we ready to roll? 1 second. Standing by.
Recording in progress.
So you guys need me to hold. Gabe, are you ready to go? Oh, I misunderstood. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the September 9th, 2025 City of Trinidad, California City Council meeting, not to be confused with Colorado, which we sometimes are. Let's start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for returning from closed session with nothing to report tonight. And with that, I'd like to go ahead with the council and go to approval of tonight's agenda. I do have one change to the consent agenda until we get to that. Right there. Yes.
I'll move that we approve the agenda,
Can we go ahead and do it now? Pull the consent.
whatever your pleasure is.
Okay. All right, so I would like to go ahead and propose that we pull item number 3, the boardwalk improvement agreement between the city of Trinidad and the Tri-Heights Indian community of the Trinidad and Rancheria. We've been asked to do a different type of agreement, and so I'd like to pull that for discussion from the council. And I believe the CEO of the Rancheria will be joining us, and she can answer some questions at that time. But what I'm suggesting, I think, is to put it as number 2 in the regular agenda. So our first agenda item would be accepting Councilmember Varela's resignation, and then number 2 would do the agreement, and then we would go on from there. So council, I'll come to you first. Does that sound real? Okay. Are there any public comments about this change to the agenda? Seeing none, back to the council for a motion.
I would so move.
Second. And seconded by Katie. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, next is approval of minutes. We don't have so there are 3 sets of minutes: June 10th, July 8th, and August 6th. August 6th is not included in the packet at this time. It's mentioned in the agenda, so I'll just point that out. Has the council had a chance to review June 10th? Yes, okay. Have you had a chance to review July 8th? Okay. All right, in that case, let's start with June 10th. Any questions on the minutes from June 10th from the council? Any questions from the public on the minutes from the meeting of June 10th of 2025? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the June minutes.
Is there a second? Katie seconds, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And then next,
Cheryl, so the July minutes are in the packet? We're
yes,
just not going.
July minutes are in the packet, but if you have not had a chance to review them, then I would suggest we continue that item. Okay. Let's, I don't think I need to go to public comments for the continuance, so I'll go ahead and move to continue the review of both the July and August minutes in the October meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thanks for working through the administrative component of this. I want to mention also administratively that Councillor Tuttle is not going to be joining us tonight. He had a separate meeting to attend. Okay, we're on council reports and committee assignments, and I'll start at that end of the table with Mr. Kenny.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At our August HCOG meeting, we had a very interesting presentation by the State Housing and Community Development about our regional housing needs determination, which is an issue that's germane to Trinidad. We're going to be have some other items on the agenda related to that. There are staff members on state level were available by Zoom for questions from HCOG, and it's a pretty informative session. We got a couple of action items that approved the 25-26 fiscal year overall work program for HCOG and amended the budget, and a couple of Transportation Development Act rules amendments, really more like just housekeeping measures. So nothing really substantive beyond that. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Breckenridge?
Yes, I went to it's RREDC, and I think it said RDEC. RDEC, it's called. It was very interesting to me, and just for those of you who don't know RDEC, which I didn't, its core program is its small business lending program, where it provides capital for business growth. I thought it was very interesting. There were no major developments to report. It's just the alternate, and it was my first meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Breckenridge?
Yeah, I have nothing to report. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the REDAC meeting this month. So thank you, Katie, for attending on my behalf.
I have a couple of quick ones. RCEA, I attended the board meeting on August 28th, and it was really just approving and attesting to the veracity of the RCEA 2024 Power Source Disclosure Report. And then I attended the LAFCO meeting on September 3rd. And this was a closed session consultation with legal counsel regarding a reconsideration request that has come with regard to the Neeland Fire Department providing, it's about an annexation that was proposed and kind of the LAFCO had considered doing, but now we're being asked to reconsider it. So nothing was decided, so there's nothing to report. It was a closed session, and that decision has been continued to the September 17th meeting. So we'll be discussing that then. And then I have a kind of a fun thing, which is the town hall paint color voting process. So, in the town hall, we are going to have a little sign-up sheet. If you're in the 95570 area code, you are welcome to vote. Put your name, your address, and you will be given a token. And then you simply insert your token into the voting, the highly technological voting booth here. So anyway, you will, each box has different color scheme. You just put your token in the color scheme that you like the best. So one of them is more blues, one of them is more grays, and one of them is more beige, if you like that. And so yeah, just go into the town hall, sign up. Anton will give you a token and you vote, and we will tally them in the next city council meeting. So
Carol, if you said to me that if we wanted to switch, like we put our token in, anyhow, you explain that.
Yeah, so Katie said in some cases, like as we looked at these colors, I've kind of identified a color that would be good for the body, and then for the trim, and then for the doors, and also that kind of roof trim. And so Katie said, well, I'd kind of like to switch these. So that's fine. We'll take all input. So on your form, when you vote and you put your name and address, there's a comment section. So feel free to write in. I mean, if you think the town hall should be yellow or something, go ahead and write it in. We will consider all, right, Gabe? We'll consider all input. This is a community project. We want everybody to be proud of their town hall. Any other questions about paint voting? Okay. All right, any questions from the council about any of the report outs? Any questions from members of the public about any of the report outs? Great. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on then. So next up will be the public safety report. So I'll turn it over to our interim city manager, Gabe Adams, and I'll let him take it from here.
Thank you, Pat Mayor. I'm going to actually punt this one to start off with Josh McCall, who Lieutenant Josh McCall is our lieutenant at Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. Josh, you there?
I am. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
We got you. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, good evening. So yeah, looking here at stats for August, I'm looking at the stats for the city itself, with confined to the inside the city limits area. For August, we had a total of 55 calls for service, or incidents or calls for service that were contained within the city. That was down almost 10 from the previous month. I believe we were at 64 in July. With that, there was no real uptick in any type of incident call. I think I guess technically there obviously wasn't an uptick because the calls were down, but there was nothing that dramatically rose aside from we had, I think, significantly more patrol checks and of the area. So I think looking at July, if I remember right, we had like 6 or 8 patrol checks, and that jumped up to 16 for August. And that was without, I believe in July we had a fair amount of extra patrols, and that might have been related to that little cluster of some suspicious incidents and stuff that occurred there over a few day period. And so that probably resulted in some extra patrol checks that were added to that for the last month. So the fact that we don't have those in there and the other patrol checks are up, I think just kind of helps to go to show that, deputies are definitely making it up there. Some of these patrol checks may be incidents that are called in, but a lot of them will be just self-initiated patrol checks or foot patrols or business checks or that type of thing. So like I said, looking at the numbers here, there was nothing that stands out. I don't see any real indications of any significant property crimes or anything like that occurred for the month of August. And then just for what it's worth here, looking at the greater Trinidad area, so taking into account the surrounding areas of, West Haven, the Rancheria, and some of the areas to the north and stuff there that would still kind of fall into the larger geographical zone of what a lot of people would consider the, greater Trinidad area. Calls for service from August went up about 10 calls from the month of July. But with that, we had a couple more arrests. We went from 2 arrests in July to 5 in August, but as far as investigations and reports, those stayed fairly similar. I believe looking at it, with that one, the increase for the calls for service overall for that were probably patrol checks, and being again foot patrols, business checks, or just patrol checks of the area, or potentially a patrol check of something that was called in. But we went from 19 of those in July for the greater Trinidad area to 44 for the month of August. So definitely picked up that activity up there over the last month from that. Other than that, looking at the other numbers, again, I don't see anything that really jumped up or changed one way or the other across from that. So.
Thank you, Lieutenant McCall. I also want to echo what Josh was saying about, modified patrols. I think during the vandalism spree, it's been a couple of months since we haven't had a meeting. We haven't had a chance to talk about what's been going on, right? So a lot has occurred with regards to just how busy the summer's been. But the vandalism spree that occurred in mid-July, I was very pleased with the sheriff's response. There was a press release that went out, and we got great cooperation from the increased patrols, and also Pacific Coast Security modified their patrols and their hours to increase their presence and make, immediately follow those reports of vandalism. So I was very pleased with the response we got from our public safety team. And the suspicious bicycle theft, I think that occurred too. These are just little highlights that occurred that maybe are a little bit more high profile that people have heard about in town. That bicycle was actually returned. It was found a block or two away. And again, just wanted to thank Josh McCall for, Lieutenant McCall, I should say, for his cooperation. I think the public safety team here in Trinidad did well this summer.
I have a small question. What does CAD stand for on the report?
Is that on the reports?
Yeah.
McCall, can you answer that? The code for CAD?
Usually that would be a standard. So yeah, CAD usually just refers to computer aided dispatch. So I guess without seeing exactly, I was just trying to look on what I have here to see if I see it on there. Where it's on there. Sometimes, again, depending, it could be. Sometimes we'll just have like a CAD documentation. So that would be the CAD, and what that is oftentimes is, somebody calls something in, they're not saying, hey, we don't need you to come here or really do anything, but it's kind of weird and we just want to get it on record. So it may be done as a CAD documentation, or just maybe that it's something that gets called in that's non-criminal, and it may just be limited as a CAD documentation. So that's probably what that's in reference to.
Thank you.
You know if they ever caught the vandal?
I was talking in depth with Lieutenant McCall about the vandalism spree, and I do not believe there was anyone caught. There has been some intelligence with our local Pacific Coast security team that seems to suggest that one particular suspicious vehicle that had kind of been annoying to the town for a while had disappeared, and when that occurred, then the vandalism ended. So there seems to be some intelligence that correlating between a suspicious vehicle.
Other questions from the council on the security side of things? Public safety, okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and go to the public, members of the public. Any questions about the public safety report? Ms. Hustler-Carmison, your hand is raised. Did you want to have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had a question for the lieutenant. You mentioned arrest in the greater Trinidad area, and I just wanted a clarification. Do you have statistics on arrests made specifically on Trinidad Rancheria or in connection with the casino? Do you have those kind of statistics?
I mean, we can, I'm sure, dig in to find that specifically. What I have doesn't break out where these arrests were specifically. So yeah, so I don't know from looking at this, it would take a deeper dive to determine, like, so of those 5 arrests for the month of August, if or how many were, potentially from there. I know there was, and I could be mixing up my months, but I'm pretty sure I know there was one arrest up there. It wasn't really related to a crime that occurred up there. It was actually a crime that occurred in McKinleyville, and it just so happened that they found the guy as he got up to the Cherry Heights there, and so he ended up getting arrested there. So I believe that was probably one of those 5 arrests, but yeah, I don't have anything finer detailed on that as far as that specifically.
I'm sure you're aware, we've hired a public safety officer, Sam Kukins, and he works heavily with your department as well as our security at the harbor and the security at the casino. So it might be good just to have an offline conversation about what we're doing, what you're seeing, and think overall, as well as with the city's patrols they're doing with their security, I think it's really helping improve overall, and maybe reducing the amount of calls.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely open to that. I always wanted to have that conversation or come up and meet and do it, or however. Gabe has my contact information, so he's more than welcome to share that with you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that's it for us, Lieutenant McCall. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for items from the floor. At this time, members of the public may comment on things that do not appear on tonight's agenda. Individual comments will be limited to about 3 minutes or less. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole. Any items from the floor? Ms. Levine, the podium is yours. Yes, please. Is hearing online.
I would like one of the original objectives of the board advisory so be addressed by the city council. The objective was providing a public forum to address and discuss water concerns and solutions. Obviously, the more water customers the city has, the more money is going to go into the water budget. One of the issues coming up in the near future is possible annexation of Mill Creek. And my suggestion for that is to maybe put a little sticker on the water bills for the customers on Mill Creek. Everyone who has a home on Mill Creek has water except for 2 people. So you could have a very short survey asking the residents if they want to be annexed, and if they do, why? If they don't, why? Of course, they can't fill this out in this tiny form, but you can let them know that there is a survey that the city is interested to know if they want to be annexed. And then you could ask if they like more information, and then have a town hall meeting. There is a statute that says if X% of people in an area do not want to be annexed, and I forget the word that's used, contest annexation, then the area cannot be annexed. So in having a town hall meeting, reaching out to Mill Creek could answer this question. Or they may want to be annexed, they may want more information, etc. The $6,000 to $10,000 feasibility or financial comparison report that the city council authorized. It would be nice to get an update monthly on how that grant is progressing. Originally, it was supposed to cost $6,000 to $10,000, whatever it was. And Joe, the previous city manager, said that a grant of, was it $200,000 would be needed to answer this question?
Wasn't a final number. That number was, he did mention that number. I don't think that's a final number. We're trying to scope that right now. We'll be discussing that in the October city council meeting.
Well, it would be nice to be getting monthly updates of the purposes and objectives of the water advisory committee.
Some of it's in the staff report at the end of the packet for those who are interested. There's a little summary of kind of where we're at.
Okay. And the city council perhaps should reconsider reinstating the water advisory committee with people who are really interested in working on the various objectives and purposes and reporting back. I know that Mayor Kelly thought that it would be expedient for you to do everything, but given that you know how time consuming all of this business ends up being, if you could reach out to the community and get some interested people, some retired engineers, reach out to HSU. I mean, they have think I'm approaching it.
So, but yes, but I understand what you're saying. Get more community involvement, and we will do that at the city council meeting, but I do appreciate all your comments and we'll take them under consideration. Thank you very much. Other items from the floor? Okay, seeing no other items from the floor, I'll go ahead and move on to tonight's agenda. The first item on our agenda is unfortunately to accept the resignation of Councilmember Carrie Varela and to authorize staff to begin recruitment to fill the vacancy. Gabe, did you want to kick us off, and then we'll ask Councilor Varela to comment as well.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So unfortunately, Carrie is asking to be allowed to step down from her position. She has served, she has submitted a letter of resignation. The council must first act by accepting the resignation and authorize staff to begin recruitment, which we are prepared to do. Ms. Varela was elected back in November 2024 and would have served 8 months of a 4-year term upon acceptance of her resignation, and the city must actively seek a replacement for the remainder of her term through 2028, and that's with an asterisk. So a successful candidate that will be appointed, hopefully within that 60-day period mandated by California election law, will be able to serve until the next general election in November of 2026, next year. And if they wish to continue beyond that date and serve the full term, they will have to complete their nomination process next summer, have their name appear on the ballot in 2026, and win that election seat in order to serve the full term through December 2028. So the first step here is to, hear Ms. Varela and possibly accept her resignation, unless we just refuse. But after that, we're going to begin a recruitment process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carrie here to let us know how she's feeling about this.
Yeah, I do need to resign, and I just want to thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity to serve on town council. It's been a real pleasure. I've learned so much and learned so much from the process. Been really inspired by the whole the town politics and process, and getting to know the community a lot more. So yeah, I'm saddened to leave this role, but I know I leave you all in very good hands, and I look forward to working with the newly appointed council member, supporting them to step into this role. Excited for the growth and the development of Trinidad, and yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you all.
Thanks for serving. When we accepted the resignation, generally the councilor is, you're free to leave if you would like to be excused from the rest of the meeting.
I mean, I'm happy to stay around. I think there was some concern about, having like a divisive vote tonight. So if there was any divisive vote, I would just abstain from the vote. But, I was planning on just staying through the rest of the meeting, if that's okay with my fellow council members.
Councilor? Council, are we comfortable with that?
Well, I have mixed feelings about that. I was half convinced that, I should point out that it may taint the votes we take tonight. If your office is actually vacant at this point. But I decided I'm going to overlook the technical potential problems and hold my mud. So, yeah, I want to thank you very much for serving. Anybody who's willing to get up here and participate in the great American experiment in democracy, my hat is off to them. So hopefully we can find a suitable substitute and keep the wheels turning. And we wish you, of course, all the success with, all your future endeavors, and see you around for sure.
All right, so we will continue with the meeting, and Councilor Varela will abstain as appropriate. The next item then is a discussion decision regarding resolution 2025-08, authorizing the city manager. Oh, do we need to vote to accept?
We need to accept, but did we, just back up real quick, did we do the
Yes.
consent? Did we approve the consent agenda? Did
Let's do it. I'm sorry. Let's do that separately. Because I redid the agenda, I did kind of skip that. Yes. Let's back up. All right. Any questions or comments regarding tonight's consent agenda from the council? Any questions or comments? And this was with the topic that we pulled. Any questions or comments from the community? Of the public. Okay, I apologize for that. Back to the council, I will move to approve the consent agenda, having pulled item number 3 regarding the boardwalk improvement. Is there a second? Any seconds? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks you guys for keeping me on this there. Okay, so then we did the resignation of Councilmember Varela. Do we need to vote to accept that?
For the record, yes.
Okay, for the record, from the council, well, actually, let me go to members of the public because we discussed it here. Any comments from members of the public? Please.
I don't have a big public comment other than just to observe the government code says that when someone resigns from a city position, it's vacated immediately. That's the word of the statute. So I appreciate the fact that Carrie served on this council for many months, but whether she should be voting on anything.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public? Okay, so back to the council. So that's my understanding as well. When someone's voted in, for example, they're sworn in immediately. When they resign, it generally is effective immediately. This is a little bit tricky because the date of the resignation letter is for tomorrow. I think I'm very comfortable with having Councilor Varela participate in this meeting, but abstaining from all voting, if we can agree to that. Are we?
Fine.
Does that make sense to the council? And that way, from a legal and kind of process perspective, I think we cover.
Seems like a reasonable compromise.
Okay. All right. Great.
So.
All right, so do we need to vote to accept, for the record, Councilor Varela's resignation?
I'd move that we accept that, regrettably, accept her resignation.
I have a question. Since the letter of resignation is dated tomorrow, can we vote to accept her resignation tomorrow?
You could, I think, yes, I can. So we can do this as a motion. You could move that we accept it tomorrow. Another counselor could move that we accept it immediately. I made a statement that I think that's typically the way things are done process-wise, but I didn't make a motion that wasn't voted on. So we can make this a vote. So if you'd like to make a motion.
Yes, we vote on accepting her resignation as of tomorrow.
So that's your
as
motion.
The letter is
Correct. Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Well, I guess I'm a little confused now.
I think Katie's saying we would accept it effective tomorrow, so Councilor Varela could vote on matters before the council tonight.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be supporting that one.
Right, so you would not second that, and I would not either. Okay. Just because of the precedent potentially.
I think we need to protect the integrity of our process from challenges, potential challenges for one thing.
Yes, so to that end, I guess formalizing my statement earlier, I would make the motion that Councilor Varela participates in tonight's meeting, but abstains from any voting because we will be formally accepting her resignation effective immediately.
I would second that motion.
Okay, and then all those in favor, and I don't know if Councilor Varela votes on this or not, but all those in favor I guess would be Bryce and I.
Aye.
Really getting wrapped around the axle here because we don't have a quorum for that.
All right, I'll vote.
Yes, we do. We have.
Okay.
All right. I'll vote for it.
And this, my friend, is municipal process at its finest.
Do we have a form? Do we have a form of city council?
Yes, we do have it. We don't have a problem. So the question from a member of the public was, do we have a quorum as a city council? The answer is yes. We need a minimum of 3 to have a quorum. And so with Councilor Varela abstaining, we will still have a quorum with the 3 of us. Katie has changed her
Yes,
vote. And I do want to apologize to Councilor Varela for working through this in real time with her having to sit through it. I would really have preferred to avoid that, and so I apologize. But we have now accepted Councilor Varela's resignation effective immediately. She is going to participate as a full-fledged member of the council, with the exception of voting tonight, to avoid any, perception of impropriety. Okay, with that, let us move on then to the next item on our agenda, which was pulled from the consent. And this is the item regarding the board improvement agreement. And what has happened is the city had a proposed agreement, but has since learned from the Rancheria that we need to take a different approach and go through a formal right-of-way process to access tribal lands as part of this boardwalk reconstruction project. So I don't think we have a lot of staff report on this. Gabe, I don't know how you want to proceed, if we want to just maybe move this to an October agenda or ask the Rancheria to comment, or both.
I think it would be a good idea to ask the Rancheria to comment if we're pulling in for discussion. Because I just had a very brief conversation with Jackie late yesterday, and I'm kind of new to exactly what, if they're asking us to go through a new process or if they're just rejecting the boardwalk agreement altogether. Okay. So it would help me to understand a little bit more if Ms. Hostler-Carmeson's willing to give some input on that.
Okay, terrific. Jackie, did you want to chime in here?
Yes, I'm happy to. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. As per the email I sent to both the mayor and Gabe, the city clerk, Tribal Council has directed, after consultation with our legal counsel, to reject the proposed language in the boardwalk agreement and to formally request that the city put in a application as per the BIA approved right-of-way regulations. And the citation is 25 CFR section 169.4. And a right-of-way is defined in pertinent part as an easement or a legal crossing on Indian land, because ultimately that's what the city is looking for. And there has been attempts in the past to move forward with an easement. So in order to accomplish what the city is looking for, it should be that formal process. And under the regulations, the city will need to submit an application to the BIA, and the application procedures and requirements are set out in subpart C of part 169. And that is in the email I sent the mayor and the city clerk. So we did have the harbor properties surveyed one more additional time. The majority of the boardwalk is on Rancheria property. So our legal counsel has advised us to reject the proposed agreement.
Okay, thank you. Questions for
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, and I see your vice chairman, I believe, Vice Chairman Hampstead is also present. Maybe you could give us an idea of whether, during the process of obtaining the easement, whether the status quo can continue and the public can continue to use the boardwalk.
Vice Chair Hempstead here. So I'm not aware that the rancheria has told you you can't use the boardwalk and you're not allowed to walk on it. So I'm not quite sure where that one came from. It's been led up to this that in order to do the project, we would appreciate you going through the proper channel of the right of way instead of, just like a handshake agreement where there's no documentation for it, right? I think you're aware of proper documentation, Councilman Kenny. So I think that we've never said that people can't walk on it and that it doesn't have public access. We've always allowed public access to the harbor and any trust properties, as you're aware of, per the litigation that you were involved in. So not sure where the comment came from, but public access is, appreciated. We encourage people to walk and it's all good, and just asking for the city to go through the proper channels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't think there's going to be any problem with us making that application. I guess we'll have to put on an October agenda and make a formal decision on that. But it's also very good to hear that in the interim, the status quo will be most likely still available. So that's very positive, and I appreciate clarifying that to the extent that we can as one person.
I know this, we did have some grants we were applying for. I guess I'm curious from staff if you think this is going to be, as it is the proper procedure to go through, we probably don't have any other option, but will it impact us in terms of grant funding, do you think?
Yes, it will. So the project as proposed that we've crafted to repair the boardwalk requires a land tenure agreement. And if we don't have a land tenure agreement, then that project will not be funded with the per capita funds from the state. So,
Okay, and those expire, as I recall. Couple of years. Oh, we've got a couple of years.
Yes, beginning of 2028.
2028.
2028.
Okay. So we've got time. We'll investigate this process that the rancheria is requesting us to go through, and we're done.
Okay. Other questions from the council for?
So does that mean then in the interim, the repairs to the boardwalk will not proceed? Okay.
Well, it seems to me we could do some simple, low tech repairs. I know there's a product you can get to put in paint to make it less slippery when it gets wet. It's like this really gritty sand put in there, and we could give it another coat of that. I think,
Yeah, so that's
really safe.
Yeah, that's a good.
Frankly, I think that.
I know we can't replace them until we get this grant funding.
Right. All.
But the minor repairs that we've been doing, are we able to continue doing? I guess is the question.
I would say yes, the city would be obligated to make minor repairs. And those are the repairs that we've been experiencing, having issues with. The damages have been with certain treads because it's a boardwalk. It's made out of that Trex material. They're snapping and breaking, and we're doing those one at a time. The goal of this project was to revamp the whole thing. So the railing's in pretty good shape. Everything's in good enough shape, but it is a little slippery at the bottom. And we're not doing any major repairs. These are minor repairs, mainly to replace treads that have broken, that have failed completely. Again, the per capita grant project that we're looking to have fund this major repair is a complete redesign of the project made out of concrete. So that's going to be on hold, but we will continue to keep it as safe as possible for everyone that's going down to the trail.
Is there anything we can do about the slippery part at the end.
Yeah, there's some
I
different.
know that was one of the major concerns, I guess, but. And
We
Bryce-
can
to Bryce's
retain it,
point,
the gritty
that gritty.
kind of paint that
Mhm.
makes it a lot
Yeah,
much less slippery.
Yeah.
For a while, it wears out, of course, eventually.
so maybe we'll ask Public Works to look into that. Sure. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay. And pardon me, I'm gonna go back. Oh, Jackie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think the appropriate way to handle it would be for my maintenance team to meet with your maintenance team and then to suggest the repairs that the city will be doing and then to get that tribal council approval on that. That would be the appropriate way to handle that.
Okay, noted, thank you.
Mhm.
Other comments from the, I'm gonna now move to comments from the public. Are there any comments from anyone regarding the boardwalk agreement? Okay. With that, then I'll bring it back to the council. I don't know that we need to move on this other than to continue this item to October. Not even sure we need to do that.
I think we would re-agendize it as a decision to make the federal application for the
That's good. Okay, then with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number. Oh, gosh, where are we here? It'd be item number 3, but it was item number 2. The discussion decision regarding resolution 2025-08, authorizing the city manager to sign an MOU between the County of Humboldt Division of Environmental Health to continue serving as the city's health officer. So I'm gonna turn that over to Gabe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Trevor did a fine job with his staff report, but she and I both have been talking through this. So I'll go ahead and take a start with this, and then we'll let Trevor fill in if I miss anything. So what we're dealing with tonight is an update to an agreement that was made in 1979 with the Department of Environmental Health County Humboldt to provide health official services for the city of Trinidad. There's an ordinance 2025-03 proposed that will really outline the authority given, improve the language of the health officer and how it serves the city of Trinidad, and also a resolution that approves the MOU, and that's resolution 2025-08. It approves the MOA, I should say, between the city and the Humboldt County Health Department of Health and Human Services, Public Health Division of Environmental Health. It authorizes the city manager or designee thereof to execute the agreement. It authorizes the city manager or designee to make minor amendments to set in supplemental documents directly related to the MOA, and authorizes staff to work out the details of implementation with the DEH staff. And again, the ordinance would be the first reading tonight, followed by a second reading 30 days from now, back in I guess it'll be in October, and then it would go into effect 30 days following the October second reading if it is approved. I'll let Trevor maybe go into a little bit of the detail about the variety of services that the health department provides to the city, and maybe a little bit of background on what prompted this, but we should be able to cruise through it pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that city staff have been talking with DEH staff about for many years. We've wanted to do this pretty much since the city adopted its OWTS ordinance in 2010. So, you know, the health department does not implement that's the operating permit program for the city for septic systems. The health department doesn't operate that, but we coordinate very closely with them on consultations on when upgrades are required and conditions of systems, things like that. They were really helpful in developing that ordinance. So we coordinate very closely with them on septic systems in general, project referrals. But for most of this time, the county hasn't been being reimbursed for that time other than through permit fees or construction of septic systems. So that's been kind of one of their impetuses for pursuing this. But it's nice to formalize this. We work mostly on septic systems with them, but there's a whole breadth of services they provide. Currently in the city, it's things like the restaurant inspections and permitting for health department inspections and that sort of thing. Hazardous materials, so like underground storage tanks at the gas station, things like that. But there's other services as well that they offer. So, and this isn't just specific to Trinidad. The county board of supervisors actually adopted this template for all cities. And the cities can choose how and what to implement. So, in this case, the city attorney did review it, suggested a few changes. County has accepted those changes. We can kind of work out the details at a staff level of what we want them to implement. Some other key things will be the food waste, the organic food waste, which is the new state law that requires that to be recycled. So the city will be working with the county on that. If the city wants them to oversee like the tobacco retail licensing, that's another new state program. So the city can adopt additional ordinances to implement these other programs as we see fit. But there are some programs like the hazardous materials, things like that state law already gives the health officer authority to implement in cities. So, and so the ordinance really is just refined. We already have a health officer defined, but it's just not well defined. And so this is a little bit better definition of what their authorities are and making reference to the state law. It also revises a little bit in our OWTS ordinance, on-site wastewater treatment system ordinance, to define what the health officer's role and that it will be the health department. So it's really just formalizing the cooperative arrangement that we already have informally. There might be the health department has started charging referral fees for projects so that gets passed on to applicants for projects. They do respond. Another thing they do is they respond to complaints in the city. So if someone thinks there's a failing septic system or leaking hazardous materials, something like that, they respond and investigate those complaints. In the past, again, there was really no good mechanism for them to charge the city for that time. So this will provide them that mechanism. So there will be potentially some fiscal impact depending on, what kind of public kind of requests or complaints that they're going to respond to. We put a cap on that in the ordinance, but we can always later if we do it. What do we say, 15? So not a significant amount. And I think, for the most part, it's going to be. So anyway, I think I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's a little bit of background on what.
Okay, questions for staff on this item? AMOU?
I don't really have questions, but I'll just comment that, after reading through the OWTS ordinance and implementation guidelines, I noticed there were quite a few junctures where there's a place for somebody to make discretionary decision about whether, for example, a system being out of technical conformance actually poses a health issue or an environmental threat issue. So I think it'll be very helpful to have the expertise of the county help us guide us through those portions of our ordinances and hopefully help our residents who are struggling, because I know there are a lot of non-conforming grandfather systems in town. We're slowly working through trying to upgrade those, and it's been quite a process for many years. So I look at this as a real positive step forward. Everything runs smooth.
Other comments or questions from the council? I just, I looked through it and, I thought the big questions were things about, cost exposure, which you just mentioned, you've capped it at 1,500 a quarter, which seems really manageable. And then, just clarity on who enforces. And I guess my question was, if DEH, goes out and they find a problem that needs to be addressed, do they enforce that change or does city staff?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. I think that we could work that out in the details to some degree, but my understanding at this point would be the intent would be the health department would investigate the complaint, write a report, and then refer that to the city for the actual code enforcement.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was it. I mean, this really just formalizes, reformalizes the agreement we've had since 1979, and I can understand why it's just good hygiene to get this place. Any questions or comments from the public on the MOU? The DEH? Yes, Ms. Fleischner.
So on the OWASP enforcement and the rules, so in the city, we have our septics inspected every 2 or 3 years. Or
Usually 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay. And so when we pay our permit fee to have a septic system, that money goes to the city, not the county, right?
Yeah, and that's another good question. So again, we've got 2 layers here. The county health department, they oversee design and construction permitting for septic systems. So when someone wants to modify or put in a new septic system, they oversee that permitting. In addition to that, so that's kind of a minimum. In addition to that, the city has the management program, and that's the operating permits that you get that require the inspections. And that program is administered through the city, and your permit fees go to the city for that.
So the steam septic, the permits and the pumping receipts and all that, that goes to the city. Does that information also go to the county? Or is it just?
No, not automatically, no.
But if we are obliged to remodel, what do I want to say, to change existing septic systems, we still apply to the city and then that goes to the county for approval?
No, you would go, I think at this point for the city, we don't have enough staff to try and accept applications. So we would send you to the health department and that's currently how it's working. So, if I do get a report that system has an issue, often the person has already gone to the health department, but, if it's related to, most systems we allow to continue to operate unless the property is being sold or improved. Then we require upgrades. And so then we would send the property owner to the health department to get a permit to modify.
Okay. And last question. So Jennifer was overseeing this. So who does it now? Is that you?
Anton's we're working on. There's a little, transition time right now. So probably maybe there's some renewals that are getting overlooked for the moment. But yeah, Anton and I will get back on that.
All right,
He's gotten a few applications.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the public regarding the MOU with the Department of Health? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion. If so does.
The motion is to approve this.
We'll start with the first motion for agenda item. Is it number 2? Or I'm sorry, through the 2.
Yeah.
So agenda item number 2 would accept the you would make a decision on the resolution, And then we'll roll right into agenda item number 3, which would be to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-03, which is directly tied to this. So the first, the first motion is listed in the packet.
Regards resolution 2025.
Yes.
08. I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-08, authorizing city manager to sign a memorandum of agreement between County of Humboldt Division of Environmental Health to continue serving as the city health officer.
And I will second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Councilor Varela is abstaining.
But you like the idea.
I do like the idea. It sounds like a good one.
All right. So as Gabe said, the next item is the ordinance, the first reading of 2025-03. Any questions from the council on the ordinance that corresponds with the MOU? Or to do two things sometimes.
I didn't have any, I don't have any questions or concerns about that item.
Any comments or questions from the public regarding the ordinance? Okay, back to the council then for a motion.
I move that we accept the first reading of ordinance 2025-03, amending chapters 8.04 and 13 and 12 of the Trinidad Municipal Code, defining authority, responsibilities, and duties of the county health officer while acting as the city of Trinidad health officer.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the next thing is item on our agenda is a discussion decision regarding the Edward Street crosswalk safety improvements. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to our interim city manager, Gabriel Adams, to lead that discussion, and then we'll have talk about it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to handle this hot potato. Let's see, so this Edward Street HSIP road safety improvements were discussed at length in the January and February council meetings. Of particular concern to the nearby neighbors were the flashing beacon pedestrian crosswalk signs installed on Edward Street and Hector and Belinda. As part of the safety enhancements designed by engineer Josh Wolf of GHB. Wolf did not recommend removing any of the safety elements, but suggested modification, alternatives, and associated costs. The city's insurer and risk manager, Ciro, recommended the city maintain design immunity to avoid exposure in the event of a future traffic incident involving a pedestrian at each crosswalk. After several meetings, the public expressed their feedback about the signage. The council directed staff to seek a second opinion from another engineering firm with the goal of finding an airtight solution that eliminated the crosswalk beacons and preserved design immunity. Former city manager Joe Tagliabashi combined his own contacts and connections with a referral from a council member to search for a willing engineer to take on the project. And that brings us where we are today. Of the 10 names contacted, only one agreed to review the design and possibly remove the flashing beacon sign. After many months of discussion, that engineer informed the city manager just very recently, I believe a couple of weeks ago, that he could not find a way to reverse the engineering installation, and his insurance company had threatened to refuse to cover his work if he were to continue. So here we are today with commitment to have brought this back to the council back in February and March. And some, I thought some new information was important to consider. Joe Joe and I had some discussions with Sarah originally, our representatives with our insurance company, and I got the sense, at least from the former city manager, Joe Tagliavashi, that the design immunity was a no-brainer. Like it had to be there, or else Sarah was going to exclude this particular area of our town from coverage should there ever be an incident. And we were familiar with this process because it happened with the Van Wyck Trail. You know, the Sierra board had actually excluded the city's Van Wyck Trail exposure at one of their board meetings. I believe it was about a year and a half ago. And they made it very clear that if there were an incident, their board would not cover. So anyway, I made another follow-up phone call to Sierra this week, and my assessment of the design immunity requirement was a little bit different. So I wanted to share that with you. So although Sierra risk managers do not advise removing safety enhancements as designed and constructed by the engineer, they did not explicitly state crosswalks would be excluded from the coverage should an accident occur. The only time that Trinidad experienced this was with the Van Wyck Trail closure. And that was unique in that there were known failed documented improvements that put coverage at risk if an injury occurred. Design immunity would be reviewed along with data suggesting the city ignored a known safety risk or nuisance or hazard if and when there was an incident. So that changed a little bit of the tone. There wasn't necessarily any explicit wording from our Sierra representative saying, oh yeah, sure, go ahead and remove them. But they did say that basically, if anything was removed, it would make the defense in an accident more difficult. And in fact, other cities do have, that they represent, don't have design immunity in all of their traffic engineering assessments in situations. So the second thing I wanted to bring up is the HSIP project status. Okay, so after a phone call with Josh Wolf, the city engineer, he stands pretty firm on his design and suggested modifications listed in the February discussion staff report. So he offered some options to kind of reduce the offensiveness of the installation by, you know, reducing the sizes, maybe reorienting the signage, lowering signage, and those are all outlined in the report. And he also cautioned the project had not, this is the big one, he cautioned that the project has not been closed out. So if the city is going to make any modifications, pull anything out, then we have not closed the project out because a resident had recently made an observation about the failed thermoplastic that was laid down as part of that project. And it wasn't until this past Friday, after I had a call with Josh, that we learned that the company had actually come back to repair it. So we have not closed out that grant yet. And if the city closes the grant out and there are any changes made, that could have we would be definitely on the hook paying back $20,000 per each crosswalk for the improvements removed. So the project final deadline is December 31st. So we're still in an active grant project with the State Department of Transportation, Caltrans. So again, removing the crosswalk signage will put the city at risk of having to pay back the HSIP project grant funding, $20,000 per intersection. And the risk is even higher and certain if removal occurs final to project closeout. The last thing I wanted to add too is some of the peak season observations and trends. I mean, when we last talked about this, it was the quietest time of the year, February. We now have a season. We're still kind of in it, but we're really kind of out of the peak season, I think, where we're at an intersect now of a little bit of tourism and school, which we do have on that shoulder season in May, where the school's in session, the locals are moving about, the city is sort of hustling and bustling with the added value of tourists. But I thought maybe we could take this time to talk about some of our observations. You know, have we seen any value in that intersection as it's designed? And I thought maybe we could throw that on the table today too, as part of this discussion. before we reach any conclusions, but, you know, I still feel the staff report was included in this packet from February. Josh Wolf did a nice job really laying out all the details and the purpose of this project, why it was brought up, the years of discussions about safety. And now it really boils down to calculating risk. You know, I as staff, I don't think I would recommend doing anything until after the grant closes, unless you're ready to fork over $40,000 and put those beacons somewhere in the attic at the cemetery, you know, which would be difficult for staff to advise at this point. But I wanted to share with you that I did not hear anything too scary from CIRA. You know, that was definitely contrary to what I had been informed of prior to this call with CIRA. And it all boils down to a calculated risk. You know, and it boils down to, you know, how, you know, maybe the inclusion of people that are using that intersection. And especially now, I mean, a city is like an organism. If there's people moving around, using things, you know, driving around town, walking through town with their kids, dogs, that would be something that the council is going to have to talk through right now and give us some direction as to where you'd like to go with this.
Okay. All right, questions from the council or comments?
One question comes to mind. The intersection at, was it Trinity and right there by the eatery? What is that? Is that Underwood at that point?
It's
Street. Parker?
Parker, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that intersection has no system. It has crosswalk, but it's actually dangerous because the way the cars are parked, oncoming and traffic doesn't see, you know, I know I always feel a little at risk going across because the speeding. So it just adding that to the pile, I mean, it doesn't solve this other problem unless in some way they could be moved there and still covered under the grant.
You know?
I'm curious, just curious, like if now that it's been up for the busy season, as you said, like, is there some usage that you can track through the actual device? Or is it just, or do we not know how often it's used? I mean, it'd be kind of interesting to know, you know, how often each crosswalk is used comparative to other ones in town.
It's actually a really good comment. And I don't know if those particular devices collect data, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So I can get back to you on that if you like. Definitely wish I had that information right now. But I can say from my own observations, I see those lights flashing pretty frequently. More frequently than I thought. And I think it also, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I also think that the people that frequent the town, right? They're not just maybe others from other rural areas, like a lot of urban people come to town. And I've noticed a lot of young children pressing those buttons. You know, I think that's part of maybe like an urban culture, and that is their sense of safety and security. Maybe they're taught that as young kids, but I've seen a lot of children, just my own observations, walking up and pressing the button, whether it's mom tells them to or dad tells them to or whatever. But yeah, data would be a good thing to know.
I think it's interesting information, the add-on information about Sarah and also the grant. I think that's food for thought. I feel like I'm pretty well versed on this topic since we've had it before the council a couple other times. So I don't have any other questions or comments at this time. Bryce, I look like you might have something.
Yeah, I basically concur with the city manager's first recommendation that probably wait till the grant closes out, which is only a couple more months before we do anything. And as far as the various options we have, I personally have not really changed my position as far as feeling like the crosswalks are a great idea, but the signs and the flashing part doesn't really square with, you know, the visual specialness of, you know, where we live. So I would still be inclined to finding a way to remove them. I think we could do that without sacrificing our design immunity, as long as we make proper findings of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. And, you know, I jotted down a few ideas of findings that I think could be beneficial to us. Decided to go that route. It would be, you know, just quickly, number one, a lack of prior history of car versus pedestrian accidents on Edwards, which is something that's always looked at really closely. There's no visual impairment to the line of sight. When you're driving down Edwards, when you're coming up the hill, of course, around the corner, you can't see around the corner until you're pretty much around it. But I think cars are going slower up the hill naturally than downhill because they have to go up the hill basically. So I don't know that that's a real issue for line of sight. We have a low speed limit in place on the road. From our prior meetings and research that I did, some of the federal guidelines for the use of the flashing lights say you should not overuse them, or it can actually decrease their effectiveness if people see it too many places all the time. And our prior council approved the additions without the same kind of scrutiny that the speed bumps got on my street, Ocean Avenue. There was an addition going around and public hearings and everything ahead of time. And that didn't really happen for the Edward Street. Signs are heavily regulated in general under our codes to protect our highly scenic viewshed areas. And the flashing components are optional, not mandatory. I personally think that the crosswalks by themselves increase the safety factor sufficiently for our purposes. Of course, on the other hand, and there's always another side to it, and as our city manager pointed out, a lot of visitors from out of town are used to seeing these and maybe, I don't know, have gotten a certain amount acclimated to them or whatever and expect to see them. So that's a good point. But I don't think we should do anything until we close out the grant. And then, you know, we can see what presumably we'll have a full council by that point, 5 members. And so I'm comfortable with it, essentially continuing this item till future agenda.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions?
A question, again, just so I'm clear. One of the things that bothers me about it is the waste of resources, money. Could that setup be transferred and used, which to me is a much more obvious, dangerous crosswalk, the one I mentioned? Would that help to not waste the resources that we've invested?
I don't see why not. I don't see why they can't be repurposed. I have to talk to Josh about that, but the bottom line is that the grant paid for them, so now we're paying. So there is no grant fund essentially paying right now for those improvements, because I don't believe the scope of the HSIP grant that we currently have applied and used them for, I think that's going to close out. And I don't know if there's going to be any alternative options for us to move fast enough before the grant closes out. And again, it might get kind of complicated if we're trying to say we bought them, show the invoices in it with a different program, safety program, to get them essentially reimbursed by another grant later. But that's a creative option, and I certainly will talk to Josh Wolf about it.
think we definitely want to go through the same communication process that we did for the speed pumps. If we were to put any, do more of the upfront communication, because we might run into the same difficulties that we have now, where folks who live in this, on Trinity say that it's in their view shed, and even though it's over by the eater or whatever, as they look out to the ocean, it's, I guess I would just want to make sure personally, I would want to make sure we have a lot of communication about it. I'm gonna hold on any other observations that I have, because I'd like to go to public comment if we're ready.
Yeah, it occurs to me that we might even be able to, if we didn't need all of them for our city, might sell them to another city that's looking for it.
Yeah, we talked about that. I mentioned that
It's a shame for anything to go to waste.
Yeah. If we go that direction, we'll offer them up to the other cities. Okay, let me open to public comment. Are there any comments from members of the public on this topic? Mr. Dave?
Hi, I'm Davis. I live on Hector Street. Obviously very interested in this topic. I just was going to share my observations from the summer, being the person probably best placed amongst maybe one or two other people in town to observe at least the one at Hector. What I observe on a daily basis is people don't use the flashers. They don't use the crosswalk. Some people do. There are the odd people, but I would say it's a very low percentage that actually even bother to use the crosswalk. Most people that live in town walk down the north side of the street, not the south side of the street, for at least that first part. It's much safer for at least halfway down the street. So I would challenge that crosswalk even needs to exist, much less even have flashers out there, because people just aren't using it. I'm watching it every day. Secondarily, I'm comfortable with Price's suggestion about waiting for the grant, or Yates' suggestion to waiting out the grant. Doesn't make sense. Seems logical. Lastly, the other aspect of that project was that there was a paved strip that was added along the curb on the south side, right across the street from Hector. So the crosswalk now goes into a paved strip on that side of the street. Yeah. All that's become is a parking spot for people wanting to take pictures. So
I saw that too.
It really has not worked at all. So most people don't walk across there and don't walk through there. And all that happens is now people are stopping there to take pictures. So we've really kind of defeated the purpose of the whole thing and just created a place for people to stop. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, this is Jeff Barry. I live on Edwards, like halfway down the street on the south side of that. I agree with Andrew's comments about how people actually walk. They walk on the north side, and then about halfway down, oftentimes sort of in front of my house, they cut across if they actually want to go to the south side. Nobody goes all the way down to that intersection window, pushes the button, looks both ways and walks across. Nobody does that. I mean, I've been here all summer, not even at the height of summer, enough to do that. So I think the idea that they're needed down there is first, I guess, would be one word. What I think, and we keep dancing, and I appreciate all the comments on personal observations, but that really shouldn't be controlling what we do there. We actually need a traffic study done by a real engineer who's looking at this from the perspective of how many vehicles do we have? How many people do we have? How fast are the vehicles going? How do people actually walk? How often do they use these things? We have never done that for that section of Edwards. And that should have been done, something that GH should have done before they did any of this. I mean, there was never any indication that Edwards was unsafe without these signs. There's never an action, all the things that Bryce pointed out. And yet, the engineers at GHD came up with this grandiose design to spend a bunch of money that was free, and came up with this huge over design that is not needed. And if you were to take them down, it's not unsafe to begin with. Putting things up doesn't make it any safer, although that's not. And then taking them down doesn't make it go back to being unsafe when it was never unsafe to begin with. So, I mean, we're kind of caught in the middle here. So I think we need to do a couple of things. I agree with the suggestion to let's just cool it for a couple of months, let the contract close out so we don't fool around with possible arguments about trying to give money back to Caltrans or the state or whatever. And then let's talk seriously about, let's get a city engineer who actually lives here or close enough to us to know what we value. And I get the very distinct impression from the GHD folks, who I will comment is a global engineering company based out of Australia. I mean, and it was obvious to me from the two meetings we had in January and February that the engineer doesn't really care about what we care about. He doesn't care about viewshed and the important things of our small town culture. He's just more, how much can we over design this thing? How much more can I spend my time and money, so I earn money, designing something for you guys that maybe you need, maybe you don't. And now he went back off any of it. I mean, he wasn't in any way willing to compromise. I like all the signs to go, but in the spirit of compromise, okay, let's make them smaller. Let's put them in the ground. Let's do a lot of different things you could do. You see these things in other suburban areas done, and he wouldn't hear any of it. He was, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do that. Or I haven't even looked at that. Or maybe you could, but you know, it's not a really good idea. I mean, Katie, your proposal, let's put a stop sign there. He just, well, maybe we could, but I haven't even looked at that. You know, stop sign will be 8 feet tall, not 14, doesn't flash in the middle of the night, it's not bright orange. There's a lot of things you could do. Or, oh, we really can't put the lights in the ground because, well, you know, they might fail in our community or because of the weather condition. Well, did you actually do the research to figure that out? No. So, I mean, I really wonder what kind of engineering advice we're getting. And I appreciate the fact that Joe, our former city manager, tried to get another engineer to look at this and figure it out. But, you know, we're not offering a lot of money. I mean, Bryce's suggestion was offering a guy $7,500. Well, you don't get a lot of engineering work for $7,500 as a one-off. You know, he's not going to be our city engineer forever. Why do we continue to use GHD when they don't have our interests? I would suggest we revisit that, get another engineer on board who will work with us and come up with some alternate solutions that we need to get done out there. And the last thing I'll say is there's been a little bit of couching in this is we're valuing viewshed over safety. That's not it at all. Safety is paramount to everybody. So I don't appreciate it wasn't written that way, but you could sort of read that that's we're valuing one or the other. It's safe out there. It has always been safe. So I just want to make sure that's out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments?
It's probably, I'm Elaine Monway, I live in West Haven. It's probably a little late in the process here to bringing this issue up in the first place. But it seems to me that the real problem in that area is the lack of understanding from drivers as to who has the right of way, who doesn't. I've seen more near misses, by people trying to go through a stop sign because they've been waiting for what they think is an unreasonable length of time for the traffic to clear. And I think the pedestrians would be a lot safer if drivers knew what they were doing. And instead of trying to regulate the behavior of the pedestrians by putting in this crosswalk with these lights, why isn't the city pursuing a better solution for what they call dysfunction junction?
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions from the public? All right, I'll bring it back then to the council. It sounds like we might have a motion to continue this item to the January meeting.
Well, I would move that we just table this item and bring it back by separate agenda when the time's appropriate.
Fine. Yeah, that sounds more straightforward. Like that idea? Okay. We don't need to vote on that, I don't think.
Well, no, a motion to table and then.
Okay.
You're making the motion.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make the motion.
A second.
Okay, so Vice was making the motion to table this item. Katie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Right, we're ready for the staff report. I enjoyed reading. I hope everyone did.
I have a question before you start.
Go ahead.
May I? Why is it at the end of the discussion section? Wasn't it elsewhere before?
Yeah, it was at the beginning of the agenda. Maybe.
I mean, I don't mind, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it was at the beginning of the agenda, I think, up until about March. I think it was a discussion that was maybe held with the city manager and it was an agenda review committee discussion topic, and Joe asked to have it moved and.
I don't remember that. I remember doing that, but Joe could enlighten us if that was the case.
Yeah, no, that was direction. Yeah, that was direction we took.
Anyway, it sounds like the suggestion is to move the staff report to the beginning of the agenda. Is that?
No, I'm not making a suggestion. I was just curious. Does it's like, why are things moving?
Yeah, I don't.
We're still one way.
We're experimenting.
Just
trying to confuse me.
Well, let me ask you this. Does the council have a preference for the staff report earlier? Would you guys like to see it earlier or later?
You know, earlier it would probably have sharper attention.
I'm not so sure about that. Sometimes, especially when there was a lot of people here that came for a specific item.
Yeah.
And the staff report, goes on and people are, more antsy. They want to get to the good stuff.
Yeah, it does kind of get the, questions that people have that addresses a number of the questions. Like there was a question about the RFP, and that's in here, that Paula had. She's unfortunately left, but let me, just for fun, let's have a show of hands, and anybody online can raise their little hand. How many like the staff report at the beginning of the meeting? Okay. How many would like it at the end? Okay. I mean, you don't care. No, I'm just kidding. The truth comes out.
Now that I think of it,
I kind of like it at the beginning.
Yeah, we had it under the consent agenda.
Yeah.
The consent agenda item for many years. But the manager would summarize it prior to, or maybe right as the public safety report.
Yes.
Yes, top of the meeting. And then it got bumped. So I can't really explain how that happened, but I'm happy to put it.
You know what? I just wanted the discretion of the city manager.
Okay.
And find what you're in the mood for. And
it sounds like a plan.
Let's go.
Last on the agenda, you can always move it.
Pretty evenly on this.
Yeah. So
Jackie wanted to vote. Did you have a vote, Jackie? Sorry. Your hand
I'm
is raised.
sorry. I had a question on the staff report when it's the appropriate time.
All right, great. Let me have Gabe kind of recap the staff report, and Jackie, we'll have you chime in with your question. We'll go to public comments very quickly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought as soon as I realized I would be in this position for the foreseeable future, I thought that the staff activity report could, I always thought that the staff activity report has the potential of being a place to where we can put a lot of information that we get common questions for each month. From a lot of times from the same people asking us, for instance, what's the flow report of Humboldt Creek? What's, the status of our public works staff, for instance. So there's a lot of business that goes on during the course of the month that the public doesn't necessarily see. I think the former city manager, I learned from Joe that, sending out weekly notices to the public or to the council members, at least giving them updates on what's going on so they stay informed is good. And I'd like to be able to keep that up. But while I'm doing a couple of different jobs at the same time, I thought at least, maybe we can put a cohesive report, staff report in the packet for everyone to see. So I kind of structured it in a way at the beginning here to talk about productivity of the staff by department, administration, public works, water, and so on. And then other items of interest, especially future agenda items that oftentimes get lost and you keep bringing them up and you're like, where are they? So at least the council and anyone who's interested from the public can see where we're at with these items that they're being developed throughout the month, and maybe why they didn't make that agenda and they might make a future agenda. So anyway, the staff productivity perspective, we missed our August meeting. We did have a special meeting, and the August meeting was canceled due to several factors. including vacation schedules and council member availability. A special meeting was called, however, to handle a time-sensitive matters on August 6th. Let's see, I think maybe Bryce was the only one. I think it was Katie that was absent.
In the August.
Yes,
Yeah, I
the
was.
special meeting. So I added a little blurb in here that we are minutes of that meeting. I was hoping they'd be in the September meeting packet, but they will be available by the end of this week. So understand the gist of that meeting. In lieu of time normally spent preparing for a regular meeting in August, admin staff used this time to catch up on a backlog of projects and provide quite a bit of facility coordination to the T-BAM event that was here. The music, 2 weeks of classical music. Public Works, they also benefited from slower vegetation growth during these dry months and have been able to focus on fine-tuning trail landscapes and other projects, including curb and sidewalk painting, drainage ditch clearing, in preparation of the rains, storm drain inspections, mandated stormwater requirements, and tending to the impacts of the peak visitor season, waste and litter removal, public building and facility upkeep, etc. The water department, we've purchased new equipment through the $40,000 Measure Z award to upgrade and improve drinking water quality reliability. We've got a streaming current monitor, 4 turbidimeters, and 2 new controllers. The guys also hired a tree service to come and remove a hazardous tree that was aged, and it was a direct threat to our clarifier at the plant. And it was a matter of time. And I don't know if you guys have walked around and looked around. There's a lot of trees down right now, just from this little rain that we've had. So usually the first rain of the year can be the most damaging. So we removed a pretty significant hazard at the water treatment plant. And we're currently working on getting estimates from qualified contractors for 3 separate water service connection requests, and also performing a cross-connection backflow survey as mandated by the State Water Resources Control Board to be implemented this year. We're currently paying T3 contractor Eric Sanders. I had a talk with him. It was $4,000 a month flat fee. That was something former city manager Joe Tagliabachi set up. We're very grateful for that. But I talked to Eric today, and it sounds like by the end of the year, we will be able to possibly have him only on an as-needed basis. So that would kind of finalize the contract service and bring our services back in-house completely. And it is dependent right now on Carl Anderson, who is our current tested T3 operator. So he's successfully achieved his T3 license minus the certification of the number of hours he's required to serve prior to actually receiving that license. So right now he's about 1,600 hours and he needs 1,800. So by the end of the year, we should be able to achieve that with Carl. And then here's an update too about the other guys. Kyle Shipman, Sega Brown, they are currently T2 studying for their distribution exam. And then Derek is expecting to take his exam for T2 by November. So we're going to have a pretty wonderful bench when this is all said and done. The creek flow was, according to Todd Kramer at PWA, 11 holes. He was in the field on 8/19/2025. And the flow was 4.97 CFS, which is pretty healthy for this time of year. Very resilient, I should say. And he noted there was very little change from the previous week. The base flow is holding steady. And he took another reading, I think it was yesterday, and it was slightly more. So that was before the heaviest part of the rain occurred yesterday. So it looks like we're in pretty good shape for this time of year. Planning, I gave an update from city planner Trevor Parker. She's attended several meetings with all the stakeholders involved in the Axel Lincoln Memorial Trail. We were part of those meetings as well. There's several other things I'll let you read if you wanted to get more updated on that. It's in the packet. But probably the biggest thing on that note regarding Axel Lincoln Memorial Trail is tomorrow's Coastal Commission hearing, where there will be considering the question of whether the appeal of the city's approval of the repair of the base of the ALMT with the installation of cable steps is be accepted. So the Coastal Commission hearing is tomorrow, and I will be staying tuned to that, and Trevor will as well, and we'll give you an update on what the Coastal Commission decides. And that's only whether to accept the appeal. Is that right, Bryce?
Yeah.
Like the merits of the appeal, not actually making any decision to do any construction, just whether or not to take it into their jurisdiction.
It takes 3 commissioners, and I'm guessing.
It gets in line.
Right, in the queue.
Yeah.
I am guessing that perhaps Ms. Hosmer Carmerson's question might relate to that. Do you want to take her question on the actual lingering here?
You know, I got a few things that are just informative. They're not necessarily anything critical.
I want you to continue, Gabe. I just wondered if you wanted to take it here or at the end.
If
you prefer.
If you have, yeah, by all means. Jackie, if you'd like, go ahead and throw your questions over.
Thank you. I'm not sure your title now, Gabe.
Either.
Acting city manager.
I am interim.
It's regarding the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail status update. I just want clarification. We're talking about the repair at the base or the toe of the slope. Is that right? Not the overall project?
Yes, we're talking about the repairs that the planning commission approved at the toe of the slope.
Okay.
So that city council basically certified the planning.
Okay.
Yes.
And there was an appeal on that decision?
There was. It did not meet the requirements that the city has for appeals, but it was appealed then to the Coastal Commission, who is discussing that exact part of the process tomorrow, whether or not they gave.
Who appealed that?
The Terra Ancestral Society.
Okay. Okay. Because there is an old appeal on the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail as well. So I wanted to clarify which appeal and which project it is. So I appreciate that. And you said that is just, it's not up for discussion. It's just a decision on whether they grant the appeal or not.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well,
and just again, regarding to the council, regarding anything to do with the village or the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail or the tri-management team, we Trinidad Rancheria Tribal Council asked to be kept informed of any meetings that might take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabe. Please continue.
Okay. So from an engineering perspective in the city engineer, Steve Allen, has also attended several meetings with the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail stakeholders, providing technical input on the city's short and long-term proposals to open the trail per the Planning Commission and Council's approval. Remember, this report is covering July and August, so it's 2 months. And we have also been working with Steve, city manager and planner, to develop the draft RFP for the Humboldt Bay Municipal Feasibility Study as per direction of the council back in July. So stay tuned on that. There'll be more in October, I believe, on that topic.
I was going to ask a question going back to the trail.
Yeah.
If the Coastal Commission accepts the appeal, what's that process then happens?
Basically, it gets in line, for decision on the merits. It's a two-step process. First, they decide whether it can be entertained further. And if the answer is yes, then they put it aside.
Put it on a future agenda.
Usually quite a few pending.
I will ask that question because I think we've been trying to get that repaired for like months and years. And now that if they accept the appeal, is this now going to be stuck in limbo for months and years on end?
Yes.
It could.
I mean, I just, a positive comment about this is that if the commission were to accept the appeal and if the commission were to work towards a resolution, they have more resources to, I think, to get things done. They have more relationships and resources, and they're in a better position, I think, to support getting the trail redirected and built. And so if they were, I mean, that's just my opinion, if they were to take it up, they might be better suited to do it than the city of Trinidad is. But will it take, you know, a few weeks, a few years? I don't think it's a few years, right? So.
And again, your report says that their staff is recommending they accept it.
Yes.
So that's kind of probably done deal with it.
Yeah, staff is recommending, but it takes I believe three commissioners must vote to take it up. So we'll find out more tomorrow.
Yeah, our city's planner, Trevor, she wrote a pretty remarkable letter, you know, to provide some context to the commissioners. That was submitted yesterday in time for the hearing, but like you said, I think they have a plan. So see how that goes.
Okay.
Building inspection. So this is exciting for me. I love building. I like watching construction, but our building inspector, Dan, has been keeping busy in the field with inquiries regarding many types of permits this time of year. People are racing the clock now with the dry season coming to an end. He's got a lot of permits for re-roofs, solar installations, window replacements, and plumbing electrical repairs. He's also keeping up on progressive inspections happening with 2 new homes being constructed, one on Berry Road and the other one on Langford, and a large remodel on West Haven Drive. The cemetery. So the cemetery rates went into effect immediately after council adoption of the new rates on July 8th. Since then, 2 full-size plots were purchased at the non-local rate of $7,500. And one was purchased at a local rate for multiple cremations at $2,500. So 2 cremation plots were also sold at those rates of $1,500. And so far, I'm not seeing any slowdown in terms of, you know, people wanting to be here, but I have actually had 1 or 2 conversations with people from out of town that just immediately turned around and went away when they heard the $7,500 non-local rate. So far, the rates seem to be doing the right thing, and the locals are also appreciating the lower rate for the locals. Very, very, very good rates.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, very good. That's okay. Yeah. So future agenda topics under development. I thought I'd keep you guys posted about the underground utilities. There was a discussion, I guess, between the former city manager. He's been engaged with the underground utility project specialist at PG&E in an effort to coordinate a presentation for the council at a future meeting targeting October 2025 to shed light on how Rule 28 underground program works and explore the feasibility of undergrounding overhead lines in Trinidad. There's barriers such as regulatory hurdles and creating prioritizing certain underground utility districts, general cost estimates, etc. I haven't had any conversations with the underground utility folks, but I will be picking up the ball on that and running with it. I think Councilmember Tuttle was pretty forward in his desire to getting this on an agenda, or at least before the council. So I'm going to be picking up the ball and running with that one. Hopefully we'll have some more information and I can bring back to you either in October or November. Finally, with regards to future agenda items, classification and study, compensation study has been received. So we got the working draft as of Friday. This was one of the punch lists on the former city manager Joe's wish list of things to get done before he left. And it looks like we will be bringing that to the October meeting for sure. Once we have a chance to look at it internally, which hopefully will start this week, if not next. There's some projects. The other big project that's going on right now, construction pretty much for the most part, public construction is done, but we have, if anyone's been down West Haven Drive, they've seen the Intertie project. If they don't know what they're seeing, that's what they're seeing. They're seeing that Intertie project being constructed on West Haven Drive, and they're currently doing the easy part, I should say. I don't know if it's easy. None of this project has really been easy, but laying the pipe, connecting the 2 jurisdictions up slope from the Luffenholtz watershed. So if you take that road and you see road cuts, pipe laying around, that is what you're looking for right now. You're looking at it underway. Some of the more complicated parts of the project, the controllers and the valves and things, those are going to be probably closer to the end. But right now, you'll be dealing with traffic controls on West Haven Drive if you're going that direction for the next month or so. Carl Veneman, he's a local contractor, believe it or not, who lives in West Haven, who won that contract, and so far he's getting the job done. Let's see, and then we talked about public safety earlier, and then an update on the town hall. It looks like we talked about the color combinations tonight with Mayor Kelly. We have a plan to figure out what the color is going to be. And September 29th through October 13th is when construction is going to begin by Adams Commercial General Contracting to begin the window replacement in Robert here. So that's at the end of this month, going to the second week of October if everything goes well. And then the painting project will begin once the construction is completed on October. So weather permitting. So thanks to the former city manager for putting the wheels of these projects in motion, but I'm happy to, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Gabe on any of the items from the council? Okay, any other questions from the public regarding the staff report? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Any future agenda items that anyone would like to tee up?
I'm not sure exactly how urgent this is. I mean, I know we've got a lot on our plate, but the issue of short-term rentals, Jack Tuttle mentioned last time that the schools, the local school is suffering.
Yeah.
And I know when I walk around town, it's like the place is deserted. So maybe not during tourist season particularly, but I mean, it's just a lot of people either visiting and also vacation homes. They're occupied some portion of the year and empty the rest of the time. I mean, it really concerns me. I'm not sure what we can do, but I'd like to see us talk about what can be done, if anything can be done.
Yeah, maybe one thing we could do is spend some time kind of recapping what the short-term rental committee accomplished in the, I think, 2 or 3 years that they were in session. And, the caps that the city put on short-term rentals to, reduce the number of them so that it didn't grow exponentially. And some of just kind of the rules and regulations that were imposed. It was considered to be pretty effective, but we could revisit it and see if it's time to have them come back and the council can weigh in on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of ameliorating the situation. I mean, short-term rentals aren't a problem, except that our town doesn't have residents.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was raised with
people like me can't get a house.
I would like to also tee up a topic for a G2G with the government to government with the Yurok tribe, and get that on the agenda, and possibly with the Rancheria topics to include the dispensation of the 12.5 acres and kind of some things that we would like to discuss with them in private. And I think that's it. We talked about some other things. Anything else from the council?
I think I just thought I'd mention that I think school enrollment, they got a big push at the end of the year. And so I think that they did reach their numbers that they're seeking. So that's really important for the school. But still, they're dealing with so many different challenges. Yeah.
The school, I should know this, but I think I do. The school enrollment's all of 95570, right? In the entire surrounding area.
Correct. And I think that they are pretty liberal about,
even beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just Trinidad proper either.
But if you do inter-district transfers,
Yes.
permission.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up, because you're right. I think Jack's comments were prefaced by, he had been approached by, I think, some of the school, maybe it was the principal, who said that they had not achieved their enrollment and they were looking for the culprit, kind of, so I think that now that I heard that they had reached their enrollment.
But I mean, it was like at the last minute and it really impacted staffing this year. And it caused like massive upheaval with their teachers. So it wasn't like just, oh, the issue's resolved, it was really impactful in terms of how the school year was shaped, and like literally like the last couple days before school started, like finding out that they got the numbers that they needed to keep the current staff employed.
I'm sure we'll come up with other items, but that's it, I think, for now. Any members of the public who would like us to tee up future agenda items? Mr. Ray?
Okay, I just had one. I noticed the letter to the state of California around the housing back and forth that's going on there. I think maybe it seems like there's an awful lot of work going into that. And I imagine that's going to come with some change in the community. I'll just put it that way. And probably better sooner rather than later to start talking about that and exposing the community. Us in the coming months and years is have a lot of optionality there, as I understand.
Thank you. And they're discussing, so this is the housing and urban development discussion back and forth with the planning commission. So I know that's getting discussed with the planning commission, but we'll take that input and see if it's something that should be taken to the council. I said, yeah, I was with that too. It's pretty, I mean, after what happened with Blue Lake, I think we really want to make sure we, crossed our T's and dotted our I's.
In fact, I think it's thanks to Blue Lake that letter made it to the agenda.
Yeah.
So we wanted to bring it above board.
Put them on the spot, but. Okay, all right, I think with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Here, do you know how many kids are at the school there?
No, but I could find out.
Oh,